Toronto Brampton Regional Championships. I am one of your commentators, Jeffrey Saran Rap Saran. And to my left,
is John Kettler, also one of your commentators today.
we had a really interesting matchup here this past round one with that Gengar Vileplume deck against that Hitmonchan, Wobbuffet, hitting and running, making his way, plowing through that Gengar deck, able to take the 2-0 victory there.
That's right. It was a blast from the past in a couple of ways with both decks.
Yeah.
You had Gengar Vileplume being similar to, I think you had mentioned that on stream. It was an old deck, a throwback from about 2010 to 2011. Same idea, deal lots of damage depending on the number of trainer cards in your opponent's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And Hitmonchan itself is kind of a throwback to Dawn Fan, which is actually also here at the tournament.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm about to get to that point there too. So you had a chance to in that round one kind of walk around the table, see different decks, and what kind of decks kind of caught your eye so far?
Well, let's go ahead and just talk about bigger level impressions first. So maybe macro issues like just overall changes in the metagame. So I've noticed a huge decrease in Zoroark, where if
Really?
I remember right, our last expanded regional championship was Dallas, right?
Yep.
Where lots of Zoroark all over the place, Zoroark in top 8. I was using Zoroark. Everybody was using Zoroark.
Yep.
Your grandmother was probably literally using Zoroark. I don't see nearly as many for this tournament. I see lots of Pikachu and Zekrom GX. I see lots of decks that are meant to counter it. And then you have some people going the next step, which are people who are playing decks to counter both Pikachu and Zekrom, as well as the counters, and maybe look into countering Zoroark too.
Absolutely there. So our players are getting set up right now. Let's talk about the decks that they're playing right now. We have one more traditional, one a little more interesting that we can kind of get on there. So let's talk about what the players are sleeving up right now. So we have Archie's Blastoise as one of the decks that Ali's piloting, and then what is Connor Finton piloting?
Well, Connor Finton is using a very interesting deck with Gallade from Breakthrough. So let's talk about Gallade a little bit for a bit, because it's a pretty commonly used card. It's not too rare in the expanded format, but at the same time, it's not usually its own deck. It has been in the past, but and it looks like we already have our action going. But let's talk about Gallade for a bit, because you might be wondering, what the heck is this deck? Why don't I see Gardevoir? Where is my Fairy Pokemon? Why are there a bunch of fighting Pokemon? Why is there a Psychic Routes? Well, basically, the whole concept behind Gallade as an attacking deck is to deal consistent streams of 130 plus damage with Sensitive Blade, dealing plus 70 damage if you've played a supporter. And granted, if you don't have a bad hand, you're going to be playing supporters, so you're going to be dealing big damage. But more importantly, it's great for the metagame here, because you're going to be dealing fighting weak damage to Pokemon like Pikachu and Zekrom GX and Zoroark.
Absolutely there. So right out the gate, Connor does get to go first. Nest balling for the Jirachi and a skateboard right to the Ralts active there.
And we've got another blast from the past here, this time from several years before. This Jirachi is actually a spiritual reprint of a card released all the way back in 2005. The idea is looking at the top 5 cards of your deck, choosing one, and then you put it into your hand and your Jirachi falls asleep for a little while. Really good for consistency, and especially good for setting up these Stage 2 decks that normally struggle to find what they need, like Rare Candy.
Stellar Wish is a very powerful ability there, to be able to get the different any. It's not just item, not just supporters, any trainer card to find out on top 5 of your cards you deck. And a skateboard with great synergy there, being able to lower that retreat cost, and it doesn't matter if you're asleep or not.
And if I'm in Connor's spot, I'm liking what I have right here. I'm seeing a pretty good opportunity to be able to get a turn 2 Gallade and another Routes. So it looks like we're going to be, actually, I think I see an Ultra Ball there, so
we see Ultra Ball and Rare Candy in hand there. One thing to note, he did throw to the discard pile a Rescue Stretcher and a Versus Seeker, so that could come back later on to possibly haunt him here, but I'm sure he has enough resources to leverage that.
Right, and let's talk about Ali's deck for a bit. I'm sure for a lot of you guys who have been watching the streams, you know what Archie's Blastoise is, but for those who don't, the whole concept is getting out a Stage 2 Pokemon on the first turn of the game. How do you do that? Well, there's a supporter card, Archie's Ace in the Hole. If you have only that Archie card in your hand, then you get to play a Stage 2 or any water Pokemon from your discard pile into play and draw 5 cards. Great for consistency, but the main idea is getting that fast Blastoise into play, get that energy all onto the board. Its ability lets you do that, lets you literally rain energy on the board and deal a whole bunch of damage.
And actually, the way his hand was looking, there's a very solid chance he's going to get that there. That might be an A spec, which I feel like every time you have computer search in Archie Store's opening hand, you're going to get it every time.
Oh, yeah.
2 compressors, has an egg in hand. I think he might get there for sure.
And the only way where you might not get that is if you screw up your sequencing or you screw up your plays in general, where that's actually the skill element in using Archie's Blastoise, where if you're practiced enough with the deck, you will know when to sequence things, you'll know what order to put them in, and you know exactly what to get, say, with that computer search, because if you are not aware of what you need to do, then you might actually mess it up and you might leave an extra card in your hand.
Absolutely there. So we got a second compressor going on. I see what? Tate and Liza, another Archie's, and 1 water energy to the discard pile. Getting ready for those superior energy retrievals for later on. Really powerful card for this deck. And we'll see what else is left in his hand to see if he can pull off this turn 1 Archie's ace in the hole.
And I think it's interesting, well, interesting in a good way that he discarded the Tate and Liza, because I don't really see a lot of use for it in this matchup relative to some of the other cards. So there's a little bit of a deck thin element. Oh, no. And he missed the Archie for turn 1.
What that one card was. That was kind of a little bit like, holographic there, but it was like another propagate egg and then a floatstone.
No.
That is definitely not what you want to see here.
Okay, and Connor's sitting pretty because he's got that Ultra Ball and the rare candy, meaning he's going to get that turn 2 Gallade. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw a double colorless energy in his hand too. So it looks like he'll be hitting that Keldeo for big damage if he wants to.
That's got to hurt there. Your deck is built to kind of get that turn 1 setup here, and Connor's able to get a turn 2, stage 2 Pokemon out without the Maxi, since it's, one, not banned anymore, but, through rare candy, it's kind of almost like a slap in the face kind of, but we'll see what happens here. And no hand Juniper coming up.
Oh, man, and he's got a great setup going on here. Let's see what his odds of being able to get some additional damage on the board are. I'm looking down his list, and I think the one thing that is going to be in Ali's favor is I don't see a whole lot of damage modifying cards. I see a Kukui, but I don't see anything that would really give Connor that 180 that he needs.
You see here he is doing a Stellar Wish currently right now. I couldn't do it. He grabbed another rare candy here. Okay. Get up for Gallade number 2. Good synergy there between the Stellar Wish and the Premonition. Nice to be able to do Premonition 2 times to really set up his draws for his next couple turns. Premonition, be able to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put them in any order you want. So it also has good synergy with that Pokemon on the bench, Oranguru. So once you get to those low hand sizes, you can instruct to those last few pieces you can get in your hand.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about Connor's list is that there's so many layers of consistency. And by consistency, I mean cards that are going to let you get more cards and let you get set up, where that's the name of the game in Pokemon. That's one of the things that makes it unique as a card game is you can basically have almost unlimited access to your deck in different ways. And so by being able to draw cards with Jirachi, look at the top 5 with your Gallade, draw more cards with Oranguru, you are basically just setting yourself up for victory in a lot of situations you wouldn't otherwise.
So we do see here, Sensitive Blade did play support of that turn. He's able to do that plus 70 damage to do the 130 on the Keldeo. And he did just get an Ultra Ball here, so probably going to look at getting a Shaman, even though I know he doesn't want to bench that in this kind of matchup, but he got to get some draw going here and get this strategy flowing.
Right, and the one thing that Ali wants to take advantage of, if I were in his shoes, are situations to be able to exploit the fact that Connor is limited in the amount of damage that he can do. And in addition to that, being able to maybe get ahead on the prize exchange. Losing the Tate and Liza is a little bit of additional health recovery, might hurt later on down the line. I'm not anticipating it, but if I'm Ali, I'm really going to want to be hitting with big damage with what I can, and that's part of the reason why he's got Magikarp and Whale or GX in the deck.
Now, those Ralts, is just out of curiosity, were they the ones that were under 60 HP there? So, in theory, he could possibly in Game 2 here pull off that GX play from Whalor to take out all the Ralts on bench, if you were to load up there.
Was it? I thought it was the 60 HP one.
Was it? Okay. I mean, in theory,
I might be wrong.
But, that Tag Team GX play could be something that happens here later on that could bring his matchup to where he wants it to be here. We do see the Whalor about to come down as well.
And another thing I neglected to mention that actually hurts Connor in this matchup a lot is that Volcanion Prism Star. It's got the perfect amount of HP to avoid knockouts from Gallade. It's something that Connor himself is actually a little worried about. And in addition to that, it's dealing big damage not just to the active, but to the bench, being able to set up situations where Focus Sash is mitigated.
He is. If one of those Pokemon was an item card instead, he'd be able to pull off the Archie's this turn. But it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get it.
Which, by the way, is easier said than done for him to take advantage of that Volcanion, because if you don't have a Blastoise in play, then you're stuck at an energy per turn, and let's be honest, Archie's Blastoise is not that good when you're stuck at an energy per turn. The whole gimmick is being able to get multiple energy cards in play.
So we do see a retreat here into the execute. Here, and what's going to help out here too is getting that execute to the discard pile is going to help him set up this Ultra Ball that he has in hand for next turn. But venture to say Connor is looking for a Guzma here, and with that computer search, probably going to see that there. What is? Oh, that's a different art. That's a different art.
That's a newer art Guzma.
Threw me off there. I couldn't tell what that was, but Guzma right there, going to be able to retreat with the skateboard.
And I think you're Psychic type Pokemon, my friend, because I think he. Well, let's see. I mean, we've got Jirachi putting itself to sleep here with Stellar Wish, but I'm wondering if he can just seeing what cards we have to be able to score that knockout for this turn, to be able to get it out of the active position.
Karina, such a good card for this deck. Just grab Rare Candy and it's just so versatile with this Gallade deck right now. I'm loving the strategy. You're right on the head as far as how consistent this is. Be able to go to the Stellar Risk, back in a Premonition, and each card kind of synergizes with itself to just really make it smooth. Right into Premonition, is not missing a beat at all right now.
And it looks like a tough decision what to choose, because actually one of the problems with drawing so many cards with a deck like this is eventually you reach that critical mass point where you don't know exactly what you need for future turns, where it's like, okay, I have everything that I need. What do I do now to go ahead and get even more stuff? And so at that point, you're like, okay, let me go ahead and just get something to set myself up in case some other thing happens. Like if he's accounting for the possibility of getting knocked out, he wants that double colorless energy in his hand to follow up with another Gallade.
Perfect here. So we do see the KO on the on the Keldeo there for 2 prizes. Wailord coming to the active here. So he has, I think at this point here, he has the resources to be able to pull off that Archie's. But we'll see here if he's able to get there.
Tough to say. I mean, it looks like with the Ultra Ball, he can thin his hand down, but
Yeah, he definitely has it here now. Ultra Ball, the 2 Pokemon away. Probably don't grab anything at all. Silent Lab Energy versus Secret Archies.
Yeah. Unfortunately, 2 turns too late because now there are 2 Shaman in play and 4 easy prizes whenever he wants them.
Connor is just sitting there right now, just waiting for the pass, because I'm sure he's already has his Guzmas lined up after those Premonition plays.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be able to Stellar Wish him out. We'll see what happens here for Ali, though. He's going to need a lot to get back into this matchup.
Exactly, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you're thinking about what should you play for in anticipation for the next turns, and in addition to getting things like double colorless energy, you want outs to Guzma to be able to switch out your opponent's Pokemon, get that big, beefy Wailord out of the way and his little buddy Magikarp, and just knock out what you need, because the name of the game isn't knocking out the shiniest, biggest card in your opponent's deck. The name of the game involves drawing 6 prizes, and as long as you do that, then you win the game just as well.
All right, we do see what double superior energy retrieval in hand, choice span, is that a T-mail? Yep, and a water energy here. So he has a strategy out now, but now it's just kind of keeping himself in line to avoid KOs but still take some of his own.
Got a little confusion about the trainer's mail.
I think he that was an order pad right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little confused about that die roll too. Yeah.
Well, there it is. He's a Psychic type Pokemon and saw the future and got his order pad off the trainer's mail.
My friend, you're on fire today.
So does that roll count for his order pad? I'm kidding, by the way, but
well, I mean, maybe in casual games.
Maybe he rolls another 5 again, and he's just that good with it.
That's right. That's some weird games of a ship and angle shooting.
What would he look to grab off of this order pad right now? And like, what else would he need? I mean, I guess, is there enough energy to discard? Would he need to compress some more? What do you think he's looking for? Well, we won't find out. But
he got tails. But, good hypothetical question. It looks like between the superior energy retrieval and the water in his hand, he seems reasonably set in his energy. He probably wants some sort of draw card, because I didn't see any of that in his hand. I saw a bunch of stuff to attack for a turn or two, but I didn't see any good follow-up. And that's another thing is, I mean, supporter cards, surprise, surprise, I let you draw cards, but without supporter cards, you're just kind of stuck. And you're basically limited to what you can play. When you're limited to what you can play, eventually you have a dead hand, and Connor's just like, oh, I'll keep drawing cards.
So let's kind of theory mod here right now. So you're on Ollie's side right now, and you see you're facing a non-EX deck. It's gonna be a long kind of grueling matchup right there. At what point do you kind of go, can I get to a spot to finish this game faster than he can, or just go with the time you have, knowing you're gonna need a lot of time to take out 6 prizes one at a time? Do you go to the game 2? Do you think he's still in a good spot?
Yeah, and that's a good question, is generally with these 50-minute best 2 out of 3 matches, let's be real here, for a very long game of Pokemon, you typically need more than about 15 minutes per game. So once you hit that point where you can be pretty sure that you're not going to win, there's not that much you can do. I mean, scrolling down Ali's list, I don't see any ends. I don't see any comeback potential except maybe that Marshadow from Shining Legends. There's a couple options, so
here we go.
Super long story short, I'm inclined to agree with you. With all that draw power, and I think he had to bump his own Silent Lab. I think he had to discard that. He can't even catch Connor in a position where Connor cannot draw cards, because he can. And he's probably going to get the win next turn, so maybe save yourself 3 minutes and just go on a game 2.
We did see that premonition there, too, put that Verseeker around top of his deck right now. So Connor's just chaining Guzmas. Those Shamans are looking like a really tasty treat right now for those Gallades to eat up. So regardless here, it's either going to happen here with the scoop, or he's going to end here in the next 2 minutes. So, all right, T-mail off the top here. It looks like, can't tell which one's the T-mail hand. I think it's the one that's right hand there. Giratina, Superior, and grabs the Field Blower.
And the Giratina is also a pretty unique way to set up Gallades for future KOs, because it adds damage to your opponent's Pokemon, okay? And so by adding little bits and pieces of damage, we can set ourselves up to not only get the exact number you need later on, but to negate Focus Sash. And Focus Sash being a tool, older tool, that if Pokemon at full health is knocked out, then it's going to stay alive. And it's not going to have much HP, but it's going to stay alive. And so Giratina helps you get around that.
So we do see the Field Blower here. Get rid of the 2 escape boards off those 2 Pokemon there. But here it is, right off top deck, Verseeker, and we're going into game 2.
Yes, sir.
Eat up the Shaman there for the last KO, and there we go. We're setting up for game 2.
Now, in terms of adjustment, what I'm hoping to see in the next game from Ali, other than actually getting a turn 1 Archie, that's probably the number one deciding factor would be to get that turn 1 Archie, as opposed to actually, floundering around, no pun intended, for 2 turns. So that's what I want to see next game. I want to see those non-GX attackers actually be really relevant. It looks like he was angling for that. It looks like he was hoping for that, but he just didn't get the right card combination to be able to pull it off.
Yep. Yeah, we do see he has 2 non-EX attackers there with Onyx from Lost Thunder, as well as Volcanion Onyx, obviously there for that peak and round matchup, and those Zoric matchups there as well. So he has 2 outs to non-EX attackers. So if he can, leverage those first while they're early, get their use out of them there, and hopefully a heavy Pokemon, maybe Whaler can clean up if it can take 3 hits to take it out.
Yeah.
That could be an option as well. But yeah, he definitely turn 1 Archie's got to be a priority here. Got to be the priority.
And one thing we haven't had a chance to see in this matchup, and we probably won't, to be honest, is the application of a special tech card, a single copy inclusion in Connor's list for a Mr. Mime from Team Up. Now, that's actually really cool, because its ability, if your opponent has any damage counters on their Pokemon, they can't put that Pokemon back into their hand. And that means that things like Scoop Up Cyclone, Acerola, things that indirectly heal your opponent's Pokemon by bringing them back into the hand, can't go there. And because of that, Connor's got a lot of options in matchups where they can do that. But I think it's kind of a moot point, to be honest, in this matchup because Ali doesn't really have anything like that. He doesn't have a single
Yeah.
Acerola.
I've seen some lists play the one Ace roll account for that exact reason, to be able just to pull up, especially those big, heavy Whaler GX that takes a lot to knock out.
And looks like we're back in the action.
And back into the game here. And I'm going to safely assume that Ollie's probably going to go first here. All right, game 2 underway. Giratina start. Not the best. And there's that Mr. Mime we were talking about over on Connor's side.
Yeah, can't exactly say it was the number one thing that Connor really wanted to see because, again, for lack of a better word, it's useless in this matchup. So we got tails on that order pad. You got to just shake that off. Got to go ahead and get what you need. And you've got multiple order pads, so got to re-roll. If it lands off the table, then he's checking to make sure what it is.
6.
Yeah,
So you can search.
And that's the weird thing sometimes is that we use dice to flip coins sometimes instead of actual coins, and a lot of those custom dice, they have custom sides, so either the 1 or the 6 is replaced. And that's perfectly legal, that's perfectly fine, especially here for stream where we want to be able to see things and see what they do. But you have a little bit of confusion sometimes where people are like, okay, is that a 1 or a 6? And they figure it out, and Ollie's very glad it's a 6.
Order of operations wise, if he had a T-mail in hand prior to the order pads, do you still go for the order pad play first prior to the T-mail?
Well, it's a really tough decision because eventually, if you want to get that turn 1 Archie, that Trainer's Mail is going to go away one way or the other.
Okay.
So it's definitely a complicated answer. I feel like it could potentially go either way. It's one of those murkier things. I'm actually fine with doing order pad first, especially since Ollie's got a couple Shamans in his list, so he's going to burn that T-mill either way at some point. So roll twice, see what you get, and then go off of that. And I think that impacts your decision on knowing whether or not you need to get a specific card off a T-mill. So it's largely dependent on the other cards in his hand.
This T-mail, okay, we just looks like a battle compressor there. So he's in an interesting spot. He has Ultra Ball, 2 other cards, and as well as a Lele here. So he Ultra Balls a Lele and the other piece there and just goes for clean Archies.
Yeah, I mean, between the order pad heads and the T-mail and the battle compressors, like, I have virtually, I'm going to hedge my bets here, virtually no doubt he's got the turn 1 Archie, but it's just going to be a little awkward as to the best combo. And that's the thing, is that order of operations, sequencing, choosing what cards to play. Sometimes with these Archie decks where you need to narrow your hand down to just a single card, there are multiple ways you can do it. And we're actually seeing that right now where we're seeing an Archie go away. Theoretically, Ali could have a VS Seeker in hand to be able to do it. He could have gotten it with the Lele. He has Archie, I think, in his hand right now, so that's another thing that he can do.
Interesting enough, he only compressed away 2 cards on that turn right there. Curious the logic behind that there. I mean, I guess every other card is vital at this point right now, but I'm sure, discarding energy doesn't hurt for superior energy plays later on. A supporter that you might not need for this matchup, there's got to have been something to help thin that deck.
I think I agree with you on that. Even if an energy wouldn't have been the best idea, he could have potentially discarded something that might not be as good in this matchup that he doesn't really anticipate himself using a whole lot. I would say, though, that at any rate, like it shouldn't make that much of a difference, but with a statistics probability based game like Pokemon, every single little edge you can give yourself counts, and so that little bit of deck thin might come back to bite him in a really indirect way. But who needs deck thin when you got order pad?
And he did hit the Volcanion Prism Star off of that Archies of 5, so he's able to get that quick start that we were mentioning right before the match started here. He needs to use Volcanion right away to get that easy damage on the non-EXers.
And if I'm not mistaken, he just showed the card that he got off of order pad. That's one little detail that's actually pretty relevant to mention, is that order pad, if you flip heads on a coin flip, lets you search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. You don't have to show your opponent what that card is. And the reason why is because your opponent doesn't get any disadvantage by not knowing what that card is. It's just any one card goes to your hand. You don't have to prove to your opponent that you got, say, a Pokemon or something more specific.
There are little things here that I'm kind of noticing that I wish he might have Ultra Ball something different here. That Field Blower can come in handy here. Take out those escape boards as he set up those Jirachis and those Rawls later on. Now maybe that Field Blower could have been held in hand still, and maybe got rid of the other energy instead, since you could bring those back with superior energy retrieval. Just thought it was an interesting note there as one of his 2 field blowers going to the discard pile now.
Hey, Jeff, did you get a peek at the one card that's in Ali's hand right now?
So it should be energy. He hasn't touched
Okay.
energy yet, so that's probably what it should be energy, and yeah, I think that's it. Energy and the Volcanic Prism Star is what's in his hand right now.
See, I don't really know just about. So let's see. We've basically got an end of the turn right now, and I agree with its decision here to hold off on playing those low HP Shamans because even with the fighting resistance, those are free prizes for Connor, and the last thing you want to give Connor are free prizes. But at the same time, I'm wondering if that Ultra Ball might have been a little premature because you're committing yourself to discarding cards. So it goes back to your point about losing that field blower when you probably didn't need to lose it right away. You probably could have maybe waited a turn. It's not exactly like Connor's running Delinquent, although Delinquent's a banned card, if I remember right. So it's not exactly like he's going to go down to a hand of 0. But, yeah, I mean, it probably won't make much of a difference, but it could.
We might be seeing that play we were just mentioning also before is that being able to do that Whaler attack on these 2 Ralts right here. Was it a Towering Splash GX to take out those 2 Ralts if they're under 60 HP. The kind of play you saw in the last Dallas Regional to take out all the different Zaruras on bench for the Zoroark decks. And it kind of put a wrench in their plays there. So
bringing those spicy, salty, ocean salty plays to your opponents, courtesy of Magikarp.
Interesting thought there to put Magikarp and Whaler together. I would have never guessed it.
Yeah, well, apparently that's a big design thing they considered in Japan when choosing Pokemon for tag team was which Pokemon would make sense together. And, you know, I mean, I can kind of see the arguments for a lot of them, but some make more sense than others, like Sylveon and Gardevoir versus, like, Pikachu and Zekrom.
Yeah. Some of them made sense. Some of them you just look at it and go, okay, cool, I kind of see what you got there.
Yeah, but hey, Pikachu's a mascot or one of the mascots, so you kind of
gotta have Pikachu.
You gotta have Pikachu.
So we do see an end here. So those 3 cards that Ali had set up for next turn are all back into to his deck right now. Getting a fresh 6. Connor as well getting a fresh 6. Do see a Computer Search and a Rare Candy and a Gallade. So turn 2 Gallade's for sure gonna happen unless Ali can pull off that Towering Splash play.
I know, and it looks like well, this is a better situation for Ali. Principally because of the Blastoise. What's up?
He hit a superior energy retrieval. He has 2 energy already in hand. So there's 1. Okay, so he's still not there because you need 8 energy to be able to pull off that play on this Wailord.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's the downside about starting with that Giratina at the very beginning of the game is it's got a pretty high retreat cost. And so in order to pull off cute plays like that, you either need to pay the cost or you need to get out a Keldeo EX into play with its Russian ability, bring it up, and then retreat that Keldeo for 2 energy, which is a whole lot of work for 1 energy.
This is going to be tough here to put the pull off here. I mean, it's definitely the part to play in sight, but it's going to be a lot to pull off here. So right now, kind of eyeing his options here, seeing what's going to be the best Ultra Ball play right now.
And that's the thing is we also have to look at the risks versus the benefits here of going for a flashy play like that. So all right, so he gets everything that he needs, but what if that results in having 2 low HP Shamans in play that are EX Pokemon, 2 prizes when you knock him out. So Connor could theoretically be 2/3 of the way to winning if he did that just for 1 flashy play. You know, another thing that Ali might be considering right now is just going for some other Pokemon to score a knockout and to get himself set up for later. But on the other hand, you know, I feel like the flashy play might actually be worth digging for here because Ali could win the game.
Yeah, once those 2 routes are gone, now you have this this really scary Magikarp Whaler GX right now in your face with 300 HP and you have no attackers. I think that's the route right now, if it's even possible. Right now it's looking really bleak. He only has access to 4 energy, but we'll see what he could pull off here.
And if there's one thing about Blastoise decks is that when they are going, they can run really, really well, run through a whole lot of their deck, draw upwards to 12, maybe even more cards, thin them out, get all the energy you need. And I bet in this particular situation, Connor was really wishing that was a different Mr. Mime, one of the bench shielding Mr. Mimes from older sets.
And all right, so he's using the Keldeo here. Hopefully, so maybe he has the 1 Flipstone he runs in hand right now. I'm actually really excited to see if he can pull this off or not. He's going after it for sure. You definitely see it as in the way he's doing his turn right now. But we have 3 waters in hand. There's a Verse Seeker. Is he going for like a part 2 Archies? Yeah, looks like it. Archies number 2.
That's right. And that's the neat thing about Archie's decks is that you have multiple opportunities to get a Pokemon from your discard back into play, not just the one. So when you are trying to account for future turns, you're looking possibly to set yourself up additionally. And that's part of where that Kingdra GX is coming into play, where without Archies, you have no other way to get that card into play. And without a Blastoise in play, you really are not incentivized to get that Kingdra GX. But hey, when you have the luxury, might as well get it into play because it's dealing big damage.
So he's opting to do the Secret Sword play versus the Towering Splash play here, just getting the quick, easy knockout on that Mr. Mime now.
And it looks like he had the energy to go for the Magikarp and Wailord play, right?
Yeah, I think he had enough energy there. So interesting enough, we'll see how this plays out for right now. But we do know Connor does have the Gallade. He also has a Focus Sash on that Gallade, which is really going to put a wrench in Ollie trying to take these one-hit knockouts.
Yeah. And with the computer search in hand, he's basically guaranteed the rare candy, guaranteed that Gallade turn 2, and maybe even guaranteed more than one.
I think he's going to probably get more than one here. I mean, I think he has one rare candy already in hand, if I remember from his last hand here off that end. So we'll see what his computer search grabs him. There's going to be another one. Oh, there's a DC. Okay.
And an interesting point I want to bring to everybody's attention here in Connor's list is that he doesn't run as many Professor Juniper. Just discard your hand, draw 7, as opposed to Lily, which lets you draw 8 on the first turn, draw until you have 8, draw until you have 6 in later turns. And the reason why is mostly a resource management play. What's up?
He's going to be able to go DC Guzma, then Premonition to an Instruct, get some more stuff he needs. Oh, yeah. This is
layers on layers on layers, my friend.
This deck takes a lot of thinking. I can already just feel it right now, just watching how he's playing. Every turn is like, or every move is kind of like, you got to set up numerous turns in advance with this deck.
Yeah, I don't want to be in a time crunch with this deck because there's so many actions that are going on. And if you are potentially in a rush to beat the clock, then you're naturally going to want to try to pick up the pace and try to go through all these motions really quickly so you don't waste a bunch of time. But with Connor being up a game, that's not really a problem.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be in right now. We're going to see right now the Guzma on the Blastoise. Going to take out the main core strategy of Ollie's deck right now. And he just used his second Archies to get the Kingdra out, so now he's going to have to reset to get this Blastoise back into play. Yeah,
exactly. And that play for the Kingdra might have actually been a little greedy, might come back to bite him, because with the Diancie Prism Star in play, Connor's dealing exactly enough damage to knock out that Blastoise. So even if Ollie gets out another Blastoise, we might see the exact same thing happen the next turn.
I think at this point, yeah, if Connor can get, he's just one more Gallade away from just getting back to that strategy we saw in Game 1, just be able to Premonition, draw the card you need, Premonition, rinse, repeat.
Here goes that prize. So let's see, with Ollie's board right now, if I'm not mistaken, that looks like 3 water energy total. So in order to actually score the knockout and keep things going without a Blastoise, I don't really see a way out without one. So he needs to get another one into play, and he needs some way to get rid of that Focus Sash, or at least negate it.
Is Secret Sword 50 plus 20?
Yeah.
So right now, and with Gallade being, 130 HP right now? So
he's a little bit off naturally.
He needs one more energy to take the KO with Keldeo.
Right.
Which is in hand, but Focus Sash is what the thing that's going to be holding him back.
Right.
You know, when you have a Focus Sash on a fighting type Pokemon, if he has full HP and he goes to get knocked out, he actually has 10 HP remaining instead of being knocked out there. Focus Sash is going to be huge right now against this Archie's deck.
But it looks like even regardless of what may or may not happen to the Gallade, we probably will see a setup turn going on here where he's trying to reset things after he lost that Blastoise. Really devastating after you missed it in the first game, tried so hard to get it out this game. And the problem here is that if you are having to play catch up with your Blastoise later on in the game, get it out, get that energy acceleration back, then you could be losing a ton of valuable resources. So let's break it down. We have superior energy retrieval, 2 of them in Ollie's hand. if he plays that card, he's going to get more cards back into his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually going to take himself further away from being able to pull it off. Double checking that focus sash, making sure he's reading the fine print, finding a way around it if he can. And at the same time, I'm not skeptical, or I am skeptical there's a way to get around this easily. So it looks like Ali's just looking for some way to get Archies in play without losing all of his energy.
Yeah, he's looking at. Looks like he attached that one energy there. Can do Hydro Pump for 60 damage with the Kingdra, or do the reverse thrust. But we'll see what his plan here. Okay, take out one of the Ralts. It's something.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think it slows down Connor too much. He really only needs 2 Galays to kind of take over this game. But he's definitely going in the right direction here. Ali is.
And one thing that might have been a misplay here on Ali's part was with Focus Sash, you need a fighting Pokemon. That routes that he did not knock out this turn.
Yep.
Not a fighting Pokemon. Could be a fairy, can be a psychic.
Yep.
Might have been a fighting if Delta were still a thing. Maybe in some fan fiction it's a fighting Pokemon, but here it's not. And so I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
See, big cards there. Teammates, Jirachi, Skateboard, all right there in this Premonition hand. So I wonder if he's going to move that Teammates to the top or not. We shall see. But yeah, no, it's Ali's not getting right where he needs right now. You know, what would be a convenient thing right now too is if that Giratina was in a discard pile, it could help assist with that Focus Sash.
Yeah, and I felt like in case of a worst case scenario, Ali was hoping maybe to bait that, but Connor's like, nope, not taking the bait. Let's just go ahead and get my prizes, get further and further ahead, maintain board position, and also while I'm doing all that, make this game go on longer and longer, and probably win with not too much time left.
I was doing a quick math real there to see how that KO got there, but with Diancie and the Kukui that he played, does get to that exact 170 knockout on the Keldeo. So Connor down to what looks like to be 3 prizes left.
Yeah, and when you were behind with Blastoise, you just get further and further behind. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, there's just a single come from behind card in all of Ali's list. In order to get out that Archie, he's going to lose a lot of outs to replenish his energy. So because of all of that, and Connor being ahead on prizes right now, it's not looking good.
No, this is a very rough spot to be in here. I don't see what he could do in his hand to be able to, without wasting his superior energy retrievals there. But since your discard's no knowledge there, you have to get all the energies back. So this is really, really rough spot right now for Ali. Do see a Verse Seeker, however, for the Tate and Liza, probably going to shuffle his hand into his deck, draw 5 cards, see if he can put some of the superiors back and maybe get some cards that could be played instantly.
I think that's a good choice, and it's just about the only thing he can do without putting himself too far behind for a single Blastoise.
He was eyeing putting that Shaman down for a quick second there. I think it was the right call not to do so. Given that,
although I didn't like that little bit of doubt there right after he grabbed the Tate and Liza, where he was kind of eyeing, like, should I draw a card? At that point, he was like, no, let's go ahead and commit to my original plan and maybe get something a little more manageable than losing 2 superior energy retrieval.
That looks a little bit better there. We have an Ultra Ball and a superior there, so
I don't like it a whole lot more because you're losing a superior still.
Still losing a superior. Yeah, this is a rough spot right now.
And I don't remember if Ali has 1 or 2 Archie in his discard pile right now.
Both are in the discard.
Both are in the discard pile, so even that Ultra Ball is not looking that good because these Archie lists, they typically only run 2 copies of Archie's Ace in the Hole. And because of that, we have situations where with both Archie in play, that Ultra Ball could have been a way to fetch Tapu Lele GX, lets you search your deck for a supporter card, Wonder Tag, put it in your hand. But when you don't have the supporter you need, you aren't going to be searching for anything. So you just have to draw into it.
Ali did do the reverse thrust to retreat the Kingdra GX back to the bench, promoting the Kingdra here, and going into Connor's turn, we've seen Ultra Ball, discarding Karina and a Professor Juniper here for Gallade number 2.
Gallade number 2.
Yeah, at this point, Connor's just going through step by step with his deck and kind of with the power his deck can do right now. We'll see, especially with Ollie and really in the back foot. Taking out that Blastoise immediately distraughted Ollie. He wasn't able to recover from that right now. But going into this Rare Candy right into the Gallade is going to go ahead and knock out Premonition number 1.
Yeah, and at this point, Connor's just fishing for all the things we've been talking about this game, ways to have a backup double colorless energy in case he needs it. He only runs 4 energy total in his deck, just those 4 double colorless energy. But in addition to that, also looking for outs to Guzma, ways to get Guzma back with VS Seeker, and just get more and more damage, more and more knockouts headed his way. And
I like this play a lot.
yeah, me too. Set up that 2-shot knockout with 150 2 times in a row.
And he's going to go ahead and get Galley, try to work on getting Galley number 3 out. Man, this is whew. I would hate to be on the other side of that table right now, and now your Wailord is about to be halfway down his damage.
That is a woof and an oof and an ugh for me too. I mean, because at this point, Wailord might have been an out later on, just to maybe score a couple knockouts, but here is just going to be a liability.
And getting that Jirachi down now is really going to seal, getting that potential last additional Guzma you have to, even if he retreats this Wailord, to get that last piece to get game. And there's the Verse Seeker right there, right on cue, what we're just saying right now.
Yeah, and with energy in play, with no way to lose the energy, with the Guzma in his hand, and all of that jazz, I think we're in a spot where it's Connor's game to lose, and the only way that Ali could get around this is if he has any sort of way to get that Mars Shadow, put it into play, disrupt his opponent's hand, and just try to keep Connor from having every piece he needs.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that Mars Shadow's actually in the discard already from an early Ultra Ball.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And so at that point, he's just kind of
I don't think at this point there's no judge, there's no he doesn't even have N in his list either. So there is it's written on the wall already right now. I mean, Ali can, unless he can get to 8 energy right now, or all the energy to actually, even then this does not KO the Gallade. So
and that's a really frustrating position to be in, where you make all the wildest crazy plays in your deck, but because the board state is so foregone, at that point it doesn't really do that much for you, except maybe to have one final flashy play at the end of a game.
I mean, if you can pull off the arches here, and even then he has Focus Sash. So yeah, I'm trying to think of the outs here. I can't see anything really that Ali could pull off here that's not gonna keep him from getting this whale or getting knocked down, taking the last 3 prizes of the game.
Maybe the only thing I can think of is drawing into the exact right combination of cards at the exact right time. Maybe a little bit of Volcanion Prism Star action going on, but other than that, I don't really see much out either.
Yeah, he's going ahead and drop the Shaman now. And there's a Field Blower. That's one start.
A good start to the Focus Sashes, that's for sure.
There's a Field Blower, and there is he has Computer Search. Do you have a Field Blower also? He could probably still pull off the Archie's play here, but is it enough to bring him back?
Right.
And I don't see that being the case.
And the thing is, other than big damage with Kingdra, I don't see a whole lot going on. I mean, that's definitely not the Maelstrom GX isn't the GX attack that he would really want to use here at all, unless something very strange happened that let's be real, don't see happening.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of seeing what he can pull off left right now. But we're just waiting inevitably for this to pass and Connor take that last prize there. Unless he can get rid of. I mean, honestly, we already know the Verse on top of the deck, so unless he has a way to take that card away right now, that Guzma's gonna happen.
And another thing that maybe Ali could hope for is that despite all these consistency cards that Connor has, he doesn't have the next follow-up Gallade. And by that I mean he only has 2 in play right now, right? So he loses his Gallade this turn. Connor still has his Gallade in the active, coming up to the active at some point. He can probably get some prizes off that Gallade, no problem. But will Connor have all the exact cards that he needs to put another replacement Gallade for the one that just got knocked out? And that might be Ali's one real window of opportunity this game, is if he catches Connor off guard on a turn where his Gallade is knocked out and he doesn't immediately have a replacement one. And he can do that with Mars Shadow, but that's easier said than done when you don't have a Mars Shadow.
Yep.
And you have no way to get it back that I'm aware of here. Looking on the list, anyways.
Interesting enough, he's promoting the Gallade here. If I remember correctly, he does have the Versier top of his deck to KO, so I'm wondering what he's going on here. Maybe he doesn't have 3 prizes left, because I would venture to say that 300 minus the 170, that's our 150 on there. It's 150 left. Sensitive Blade. Okay, so he doesn't have knockout right now. That's why Silent Lab is out, taking out the Diancie, so he doesn't have 150 to KO the Wailord.
Exactly. Now, I don't know what else is in his hand. There might have been a potential for a Guzma play there, but I think what we see going on is we see Connor, and he was eyeing it earlier, that routes, to get that routes into play and start streamlining them. We did not see a very convenient way for him to both Guzma and get cheap prizes and get that next routes into play. So he's playing a little longer term here. He's getting that routes onto the board. He's trying to get that next Gallade set up and get things going to the point where he is not caught off guard later on.
Another Verse Seeker right there. Another double colorless.
And we got a special charge too.
I like so he's moving the skateboard to the top.
I think we've got a special charge.
Yep, special charge. He's moving the DCE up top. A skateboard to follow. Yes, he's going to be able to instruct, get the DCE to attach to the bench Ralts if you wanted to, then a skateboard to pivot out of it off of a Guzma play the next turn. If he doesn't put another Silent Lab down. All right, here. All right, so easy 130 on the King Jura right now with Sensitive Blade. Oh, no, it's 150 because the Silent Lab is blackout now. So, that's also not too far out of the way for KO as well.
And so here we were just a couple turns poo-pooing Ali's chances of being able to win the game, but look at what we have going on where Connor had to make a couple very conservative plays just to be able to keep up his streamline of Gallades for the next couple turns. And he missed that knockout. He had to miss that knockout in order to get that second routes into play. And so here's where Ali can exploit it, but he's just getting the knockout, not really advancing a whole lot. It looks like his game plan from his point of view is pretty straightforward. Just put a little bit of pressure on, hope that works, and hope that you catch Connor without a replacement.
Let's see what happens here. So he's going to be able to Stellar Wish right now. I think going to try to, what it's either the Ultra Ball he's probably going to need right now, maybe a Rare Candy. Let's see. Okay, grabs another Verse Seeker. He's going to Teammates here, probably go Rare Candy Gallade. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Teammates now. Grabbing a Rescue Stretcher and the Rare Candy. Okay, out of Gallades in the deck. Going to get the Rescue Stretcher. And that's going to be game.
Looks like it, yeah.
Yep, Supporter, Retreat, KO. Oh, not game. So it'll be down to 1 prize still.
It will be down to 1 prize. So I would say you're mostly on the money there where Ali would have to actually get a Blastoise into play. It's been a little hard this series. So if he gets a Blastoise into play, then he's in a good position. If not, then, I mean, yeah, it is. Like, there's a whole bunch of damage stuff. There's really no way around that. Now, a couple of y'all might be confused why Connor's able to retreat even though he's asleep. Well, that's another effect of his skateboard. For those who might not know what the card does, it reduces the retreat of a Pokemon by 1, and that lets the Pokemon retreat even with a special condition. So you get it out of the active position even when it's asleep, which is actually pretty fantastic with a card like Jirachi. Lots of synergy, lots of ways to be able to abuse and exploit that, but not in an unfair way.
Let's see how he's going to handle this turn right here. He can. That's the thing that stinks. Like, the Superior Energy Retrieval can get rid of cards in his hand, but this is going to add another 4 water energy just to slow down his Archie's play.
And he's going for another Tate and Liza. Oh, man. Yeah.
He has to figure out some kind of strategy here to take this game right now, because right now with Connor winning game 1, even if the time runs out, Connor still gets the victory, taking in 1 match there.
I think Connor looks pretty relaxed here. He's sitting on a VS Seeker, so all he has to do is just Guzma for game. And that's literally all that it is at this point. I'm not even using literally in a non-literal way like you might hear on certain programs, on certain TV shows, where people very incorrectly use the word literally. He literally has the game sitting in his hand.
Yep. especially after that Tate Lads play that seals it up there. That nothing's going to disrupt his chance of doing that. So, gonna probably let's see what Ollie finishes up here. See the water energy and just a pass.
And there it is, that fancy schmancy secret rare via Seeker going down for the Guzma and the game. Great series.
Great series there, and we get to see the power of that unique deck. That I mean, it's another deck we haven't seen like at all ever really. I mean, there's a Galliot variant a few seasons ago in Standard, like a Galliot Octillery. But nothing in the expanded format just yet. You know, it just wasn't enough to get there yet. I guess with the power of Pika Zek coming on the board and Zoroark now is really now hopping in there.
Oh, I completely agree. But one thing that we can't overlook and can't understate is how good Jirachi is with that combination.
Yep.
Where the deck a few seasons back, like you were saying, a lot of these core components, they were there, they existed. It's just the problem was Octillery was a little clunky. Octillery was a little weird to work because you had to wait a turn to put it into play. Oranguru, you do not have to wait a turn to put into play. It's right there. But in addition to that, you needed a third component to smooth things out, to make it a little more efficient in the way that it operated. And that's exactly where Jirachi comes into play. That's where Jirachi sets up your stage 2s and does things that Octillery in Oranguru never could have, which is get you rare candy.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, there Ollie was not able to get the Archie strategy going, and couldn't really stream the Archies, especially after Connor took that knockout there. What, turn 3?
Something like that.
Some around there. So once that happened, there wasn't a backup play or a plan B to really get the Archies back into play, and he was mainly attaching and getting KOs with Kingdra, but wasn't able to get back to that Archie strategy there. But we are gonna take a second here. We're gonna do an interview with Connor, and we're gonna learn all about that awesome Gallia deck that they're piloting today. And we are back with the round 2 victor here at the Toronto Brampton Regional Championship. Connor Finton got the ARG jacket on, representing the team. But we had a really interesting deck that you piloted. Let's talk about that a little bit there. Okay. What kind of brought you to the strategy of a straight Gallade deck?
Well, yesterday we were just sitting in the venue, just trying to figure out what to play, and we were on a bunch of different stuff. Me and my friend Nathan Brower. We were testing a bunch of stuff, and nothing was working. And then we're like, well, what is good? And I'm like, well, Gallade hits like all the Pikachu, Zekrom, and Zoroark stuff for weakness. I'm like, that's cool. And then Brian Hunter was sitting next to us, and he's like, well, actually, that there was a Gallade Jirachi deck that got top 32 at a recent Japanese tournament. And we're like, huh. So we went and looked at that list, and we hated that list, but we're like, we really like the idea. So we went yesterday at like 6 or 7 o'clock last night, and we built it, and then we changed one card after testing like 20 games. We're like, well, this seems pretty solid, and we just stuck on it. So.
And I like the kind of the overall like loop of synergy it kind of has there. You know, you have step 1, Jirachi, let me Stellar Wish, 5 cards here. Step 2, Premonition, and so on and so forth. That kind of just leads you to always getting the cards there. But going into that matchup right now, what is your core strategy going up against Archie's there? What were your thoughts going into it?
Well, Archie's is actually one of the matchups that we were really worried about because they can do things like Volcanion Prism is hard to knock out, and they spread damage and break your sashes, and Wailord also obviously spreads damage. So we were like, well, I honestly, going into this tournament, we didn't test the matchup at all because we just assumed that we lose. But I've played it both rounds now, actually, and I think like that game 2, I noticed that he probably wasn't going to be able to pull off another Archie, so I just you know, because he used the second Archies to get out the Kingdra, and then he was too far gone to be able to ever like stream attackers again after that. So I think that's a really good strategy in that matchup. Also, just targeting down, like if they have a bunch of Shaymans like he did game 1, I'm able to pick them off.
Easy KOs on Shaman's, yep.
So just like taking the KOs where you can get them. The good thing about the deck, like you said, I kind of just get to pick and choose what cards I have in my hand, like at all times, with teammates and Gallade and Jirachi. So it's just picking out what you need to do. Being able to two-shot the Wailord is really important. With the Deancey Prism, I actually prized Deancey Prism game 1, which is why I kept Guzma-ing around it, because like honestly, 3-shotting the Wailord feels really bad. So.
A lot of work there.
Yeah.
But I do like the way this deck is well built there. And now we've had 3 kind of unique decks so far in this expanded regional here. But we're going to go ahead and close it here. Congrats on your round 2 victory here. Good luck to your rest of your rounds. And we'll be back with you for some breaks in round 3.